Welcome to episode number 2 of Stories Sustain Us. I'm your host, Steven Schauer, and today I'm speaking with Desai. We discuss how finding passion and purpose in your work is essential for personal fulfillment and happiness. I was also very interested in learning about a new AI tool that Dash is developing that can help individuals discover their passion. This new AI tool is connected to the Changemakers Alliance, which is a cooperative Dash founded as a place where people who are driven by their inner spark can connect with others who share similar passions. This can then lead to greater collaborations, impact, and fulfillment. In this fascinating conversation, Dash also shares his thoughts about how transforming capitalism is going to involve focusing on impact entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism. In addition to being the founder of the Changemakers Alliance, Dash is an impact entrepreneur himself who is building people and planet with positive tech for good solutions. And he is a systems integration consultant supporting the transport sector in the UK. Let's jump into the conversation with Dash Desai on Stories Sustain Us, where we are inspiring action through the power of storytelling. All right. Well, Dash, welcome. Thank you for joining me here on Stories Sustain Us. I appreciate you taking the time to join me. How are you today?
Absolutely brilliant. Couldn't have been better, Steven. It's Friday. I'm having a good time. We've done some great things this week, so I'm absolutely in good shape this week. And we've caught up after such a long time, so that's also a big bonus for me this week.
Absolutely. So everybody knows. Tell me where you're calling in from. So I'm over here in Seattle, and you are where?
I'm based south of London, so southwest of London to be more specific. But we are about 50, 60 miles away from there. If you're familiar with UK, it's cloudy skies, but that's given.
Yeah, that's cloudy skies here in Seattle. So Dash and I have been talking a little bit before we hit the record button, catching up. Just for some transparency, I met Dash. Well, we met about a year and a half ago when we were taking a future of sustainable business class together at the University of Oxford. So when I met Dash, I just connected with you right away because you're so energetic. You're so, full of life, and, what you're working on, we're going to talk about in a little bit, was, some ideas that were generating then. Oddly enough, this podcast was kind of the idea of it generated from that experience during that class as well. So it's really wonderful to reconnect with you after a year and a half. So thanks again for doing the show with me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. As if you remember, my assignment or the final assignment was sustainability sucks. So we'll talk about that as well in a moment. And what you're really doing there, Steven, is you're actually reducing the suckiness out of sustainability. So that's what I really like.
Well, that your whole kind of premise is what grabbed my attention. I was like, I got to know this guy, and I'm grateful that we connected. So, so this is about storytelling. Stories sustain us. So, Dash, tell me your personal story before we get into sustainability sucks and some of the other stuff that we're here to talk about. Tell me about you. Tell me a little bit about your background.
I don't know where I should start. As in, it does go many, many years back.
Start from the beginning. Yeah, start from the beginning. Yes.
Right. So I'll touch on some aspects of my early life, if you like. But I think the last 12, 13 years or so have been pretty critical in the journey and the bits that we're going to talk about in a moment. So I was born in India. I was raised there. We lived in a small village there. Village as in it was an industrial town. And just like most kids, my kids are that age now, and when you ask them what you want to do, they've got no idea. And I still don't have any idea. It's getting better though. Yeah. But that's what I did.
Me neither.
Yeah, we'll figure it out one day. But no, I went through the usual motions, figured out I used to live in a chemical zone, essentially. So
wow.
I said, I need to do chemistry. That was the only rationale behind it. So I did chemistry, a BSc in chemistry, and that's what I ended up doing. Came into Mumbai, which is
okay.
the city. It is the financial capital of India, anyways. And over there, I did chemistry. I had no idea what I was doing it for, other than maybe I'll go back to my town and
Yeah.
need a job.
Yeah.
that then took me down, and this is the squiggly career path that often happens in your life. It gets done to you almost. And I went down the path of, I said, no, this is not what I can see myself doing. Therefore, advertising and marketing sounds great. So that's where I
Yeah,
think some of our backgrounds kind of overlap with your media work and all.
sure, sure.
So I did that for 5 years. I said, this is not for me. Everything illogical seems to work in mass media, and I'm far too logical. So I made a switch. I said, technology sounds like the right thing for me. And frankly, Stephen, I've not looked back.
Yeah,
Technology is what excites me, what inspires me, and I can. Uh, my dad keeps saying, if you are doing something, if you love dancing, you'll never get tired. You'll be the last person still on the floor, and technology
yeah,
is that for me. It's exciting. I see great possibilities, and especially at the time where we are right now with all AI, blockchain, metaverse, all amazing technologies are all kind of coming together. So I'm
yeah.
glad I made that decision many years back. I think it was 1998. So I switched from advertising into this. Came into UK after that. Just the company had an office here, so came here.
Okay.
And then I did all kinds of things. I did work in telco, but everything I was doing was large scale. And
Yeah.
that matters because that's what has shaped me. It's over the last 24, 25 years.
So
And
describe large scale. What does that mean for
so,
folks?
large scale. So let me give you a bit of an idea. Large
Yeah.
scale would be, so for example, the telco. So I was working in a company which is now called Virgin Media, but used to be NTL during those days. And this was broadband, not even broadband. This was dial-up. It's that
Dial up. Okay. Yeah,
that
yeah.
many years
Going
back,
back a little, for
quite a
the
bit.
kids listening, dial up was a thing that we used to do to connect to the internet
Yes, yes, and you
on
have to
our
go to
touch
that
tone
room.
phones that don't exist anymore either.
Yeah, but it was that long back when it was still kind of emerging technology in terms of internet was still an emerging technology and connecting people using those CDs. If you remember, you had to push a CD
Sure.
and that would
Yeah.
then. So that's, but what I mean by large scale is things that actually have enabled, and these are big infrastructures. These are not small infrastructures. So I was always getting involved with large, as in one of the banks that I got involved in was most people haven't heard of it, but it's called the CLS Bank. And
Okay.
last time, from what I remember now, the amount may have been higher, but they settled something like $1 trillion, and nobody's heard of them because it's a
Yeah,
bank.
just a little bit of money in that bank. Yeah.
A little bit of, and then companies like Shell. But anyways, the career path took me down. Eventually, ended up in IBM. So I was working at IBM. Did some amazing things there. But this is where I want to focus the rest of the story because that's where my sustainability journey starts. So I'll pause for a second.
Yeah.
You've got a question.
Yeah, let's back up just a little bit before we get to the sustainability story, and I'm intrigued by the chemistry part, because I think we have another connection, a life connection that maybe we didn't know about until just now. My initial undergraduate degree back in the early '90s was chemistry.
Oh wow!
um, Kind of fell into it similar to it sounds like you did. Like, yeah, I don't know. That just seems like I enjoyed it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah,
All of the, you know, just the whole periodic table and everything, just like it just made sense. So that was, kind of my, I'll be a chemist someday. And similar to you, I discovered, well, that's not at all what I want to do, and
yeah.
changed into environmental science and left the chemistry behind. But so tell me a little bit more though about that part of that period of your life. I'm assuming you were 18 to 22, during that chemistry phase,
Yeah,
or
it could be around that. This was the beautiful 80s.
yeah,
So that's what it was. But as in, if you ask me, my daughter makes fun of me when she has a chemistry question and I can't answer it. So my graduation
nice.
was that bad. But I'll say, talk to me about technology and we can have a great conversation. Talk to me about chemistry and I'll get it completely wrong. So that's my history in
Nice.
chemistry.
And
You know, there is so much common between us, Stephen.
yeah, that's
Yes.
absolutely. And I want to know a little bit more, if you don't mind my asking. You mentioned your father, your family still live
Yeah,
back in
yeah,
India, or are you still?
very much. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
it was
So
just
are
my
you
wife
the
and
lone member of your family that has left India, or
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we are a tight knit family. I've just got an older brother, and he and his family and mom and dad are all together. So that's great. They've got local support essentially.
good.
We came, my wife and me, we came just as two. We're now four. So,
Yeah,
but that's the achievement of the last 24 years, if you like.
that's a big achievement. That's
Yes,
probably the biggest of the achievements, I'm sure.
yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I've got two lovely daughters, and one's doing medicine and was selected for a PhD even prior to finishing medicine. So that's like really
Congratulations.
amazing. And the younger one wants to do some music. So
Yeah,
right now we are doing those university rounds. So we're trying to figure out. I don't understand music at all, to be honest. So that's
yeah.
an interesting challenge. Yeah,
Nice. Well, so then, congratulations about all that. I mean, it's you have one daughter kind of going a scientific route and another daughter going artistic route. I imagine, there's a wide breadth of things happening in your home as they grew up, so that they could find their passions and go their different directions as well. And that sounds
yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the word passion because to me, everything, as in when we talk further, you'll kind of see why that is so important and passion and purpose. And that's been my focus with the girls. I just keep, as in, here's a funny thing, right? So
Yeah,
if you've got Indian listeners, they will relate to this. Uh, Indians are known. There's an old joke, and I used to joke about this.
yeah.
Indian parents will always push their kids to be either a doctor or an engineer, and usually you have one of each. And that creates a lot of stress for kids and everything. But as it would happen, one of my daughters has become a doctor. I was like, no, please don't. I've made fun of people who had doctors as kids. And the younger one, funnily enough, wants to, at this stage, it may change, but she wants to become a sound engineer. Would you believe that? The things I joked about, it's a boomerang. Comes back.
That's well, you know, we'll see how it plans out. But that's funny. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So,
so we won't dig any deeper on the PR and marketing part of your career, unless there's a story there that you want to share. But if you're ready to kind of transition into the last dozen years or so that you hinted at being such a critical part of your life to kind of get you where you are. Tell me about that. Where were you in 2010, 2012? What was going on in your life that kind of started you on the path that you're on now?
yeah, yeah. And you danced around the actual year. So it was 2011. So you said
2011. All right.
2012.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
almost got it right. But no, this was back in, so I was working at IBM, doing some pretty nice projects, I must say, over there. But you come to, I must have hit my 40s or early 40s or just about late 40s. And I think it's the midlife crisis when you
Sure.
suddenly wake up one day and you think, why am I even going to work? As in, paying the mortgage could not have been inspiring reason to go to work. And that's where I think that's the earliest point I can pinpoint from. If you think of a pivotal moment, that was that one morning when I must have woken up. Uh, but if I trace back, some of these stories actually go even further back, even when I was 15 and 16, when I was thinking of certain social issues or certain issues. And right now, as in somebody else asked me, one of the change makers in the cooperative asked me recently, and I said, I don't know, to be honest. As I'm trying to trace back where
Yeah.
the first pivot was, but the one that certainly is very distinct is when I was at IBM, and I said, uh, I don't want to just turn up to work. I love technology, and IBM gave me a lot of that,
Yeah.
but that's not somehow fulfilling, and I need to do something better, something that is more exciting, more purposeful. And
Yeah.
that's where the journey started. This was back in 2011. And one of the things, Stephen, I kind of observed was IBM's a great place. It's a great bunch of people all under one roof. And I was observing that. I said, what is IBM at the end of it? It's just a collection of a good bunch of people who work together.
Yeah.
And it's all centralized. And I was in IBM UK, and IBM US essentially is the decision tower.
Sure.
If you like.
Sure.
And people who are really at that other end don't even know who Dash was or didn't know who Dash was. And I said,
Sure.
that doesn't feel personal. You just feel like a number. So could
Yeah.
I do something which actually just brought a good bunch of people together? They had fun in small numbers. And that, funnily enough, became the inspiration for my company name, which is smalloutside.com. So it
Yeah.
was like, can it be small from the outside? But if you had a great bunch of people, small groups, they can achieve massive things. So that was the germination of the thought process. And I did what I understand well or understood well at that point, which was technology and yeah, good bunch of people. I was in the consultancy wing, by the way. And I said, yeah, we could just gather together and do some consulting together. We can have fun. We can make some money.
Yeah.
But I still remember the slide deck. And it is on my list of things to do is to fish out the slide deck back from 2017. And that always had this slither of, there's a bit of a pie chart there. And I said, 90% of what we earn will go to the professional. Something will have to go towards operating the business. So
Sure. You got your overhead. Yeah.
and but a small slither will always go to impact. And that was like something was telling me inside that I need to do this. That all changed, by the way,
Yeah.
because we tried it, and consultancy is not a great model, I tell you. It's neither does the client benefit, nor does the individual benefit, unless you come up with a different model.
Yeah.
But we iterated that, and this was back in 2011. It didn't start. It started as an idea.
Yeah.
But we weren't in a world where we could do these kind of conversations. We were in a world where you had to drive across to people, have a
Yeah.
conversation, meet for a coffee, which was great, but it impacted speed.
Of
So I used
course.
to meet people, I used to have conversations saying, is there something broken about our model? Do we need to do something different? And 6 years later, in 2017, I said, I think I've had enough conversation. Now it's time for action. So in 2017, I started smalloutside.com properly as a business. And although I didn't register it for another 2 years, but that's detail. But what we were doing is in London, we would meet people I knew, people they knew. So we were gathering and trying to figure out, is there a model where people can collaborate, good people
Hmm.
can collaborate, have a good laugh, but be happy doing what they want to do. And that's how we started. This was pre-COVID. We used to meet up, go for dinners, go for drinks. Uh, but we never actually, we managed, in fact, in the first week itself, we managed to place a few people. And it was like, oh, wow, this looks like this could work. But we
Yeah.
never thought of it as a business model properly. We weren't that mature, frankly, in a thought process. But as time went, we kept pivoting. As in today, we are on the 11th pivot. So 11 pivots later, TCA was born. But among the
And
many, sorry, go
tell
on.
us what that is. TCA, the acronym. What? So for
Oh, right.
folks, yeah. So folks listening or watching, I know what it is, and I'm excited about it. But what is TCA?
It's the Changemakers Alliance, the Changemakers Alliance. So that's what TCA stands for. And it's good to have three-letter acronyms somehow. You
Yeah.
somehow end up with these things,
Yeah.
but now we use TCA. So yeah, no, thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and you were saying then, so from small outside, 11 pivots later, 11 kind of iterations and changes and growth and evolution later, you landed on where you are now with the Changemakers Alliance, TCA. I get that correct?
You got that right. But then there is one pivotal moment where a
Okay.
shift happened.
Yeah, tell me about
So,
that.
yeah, so in 2017, it was a small slither going towards impact. And somehow, Stephen, that never sat well with me, if I'm being honest, because the whole reason I quit a well-paying IBM job, where there was a career path ahead and all that, was because something didn't sit right with me. And that never sat right, even though we said, here's a slither that will go out. So in 2019, I turned it right side up, is how I describe it. So it was the wrong side up earlier. So we said,
The funding model was the wrong side up. We needed to change that correctly.
yes. So it was like, how do you change the conversation to be more impact focused? Because if you think of, yeah, you could take 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%, doesn't matter, but it just is the old CSR model. You do what you want to do, and then you cut out a check and let
Yeah.
somebody else worry about how to solve the world's problems. And that never sat properly with me, to be honest. So in 2019, we made a conscious decision, and we said, let's turn it right side up. And that is, how do you create impact in a collaborative environment and then figure out how to make money out of it? So that's what was pivotal. Now, the reason why smalloutside.com is now getting shifted into my other business, which provides technical consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the name, so I'm not going to let it go waste. But what we found is, although all the ethos around what I was trying to build, and we'll talk in more detail what I'm trying to actually, ultimately what I'm getting to,
Yeah.
it somehow was, the name was hindering acceptance. So it always seemed like, oh, this is Dash's baby and it's his business, and just felt like and smelt like old business models. And it wasn't direct. So last year we said, we've learned enough, we've pivoted enough, but we need to put our commitment in our name, because that's what we were trying to do. Eventually, we were
Sure.
really trying to bring changemakers together. So it made perfect sense to call it the Changemakers Alliance. So that's what we're trying to do, bring changemakers together so that we can make magic happen, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I want to tie in. I think your personal mission statement, which you shared with me, which I really appreciate, because I think this is a driving force of all of that you've just described, and what you're aiming at is your personal mission. And so tell me a little bit about what that is. I know what it is, but tell everybody else what it is, and tell me what it means to you and why you came up with that, and then maybe from there we can transition into the Changemakers Alliance, and
Sure, sure.
how your personal passion and vision and mission are kind of driving this Changemakers Alliance that you're the founder of.
Yeah. So maybe if I just spell out the personal mission statement, and
Please.
it used to be plastered all over LinkedIn once upon a time, and
Yeah.
it kind of is relegated to a few posts somewhere. But it's really to enable awesome people to achieve awesome outcomes for themselves and the world. To me, that just summarizes my personal mission statement.
Yeah, I love that.
Of course, TCA has its own mission statement. We'll
Of
get to
course.
that. But
Yeah.
as to why did that happen, I think mental health at workplace is a matter of acute interest to me, and it's of interest for many reasons. Because, and this was when I was saying, if I trace back how far it goes, this was when I was 15 and I wanted to be an architect. Think about my squiggly career path, right? So
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
me at 15, and I thought I should be an architect because I'm good with drawings. I'm not an artist really, but I like art and I like
Oh,
construction.
call yourself an artist. It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I probably secretly am actually. But so I wanted to be an architect, and the best guidance I could get, because I used to be in a small village, and was zero. There was no guidance that I got in my career path. And guess what? I turned up for the entrance exam. I had no idea what was expected. And then I never got in. And that was the
Sure.
end of my dream. So, but somewhere along the line, that left a mark in my mind. It's like, if I was keen on being an architect, and if I had actually become an architect, then that was probably, I don't know whether it was probably aligned to my passion, but that would have been very different. My story would have been very different today. As in, I know I stumbled upon technology just because advertising and marketing was not logical enough for me.
Yeah.
But I did find my passion eventually. And ever since the day when, back in 1998, 99, I think it was 98, I made a decision. I've been a happy man. And I felt, how do we enable this among people where they find their purpose, their passion, and when they find it, that's when they start thinking of something bigger and create better outcomes. So that's how far it goes. And linking back to the mental health issues, and one of the
Yeah.
this is another strange thing I found. If you've been to India, I'm sure it's a story in many other countries, but quite often if you go into a government department, you will often see, and I'm not trying to criticize the government employees in India, they're really good. Some of them, the jury's out, I guess, but
Sure.
it's what you find is people get into jobs because they need a job, and then the passion doesn't exist in the work. And
Sure.
what results as the byproduct of all that is an unhappy person spending the next 80,000 hours of their life doing something which they don't enjoy. And the ramifications of that are so wide, because if you are not happy at work, and work is an essential thing in a modern economy, you can't not be working.
Right.
The ramifications are many, because it then reflects on the family life. It reflects on your relationship with your wife, with your children. And
Sure.
that in turn has a
Physical
generational
health, everything.
impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Absolutely.
to me, that
That-
was what I was kind of very I used to deeply think about this, and I still do, as to how do I enable people to find their awesomeness, because everyone is awesome, which is why it's like awesome people, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you firstly help people discover the awesomeness? And that awesomeness comes when you discover your purpose. If you don't have a purpose, or everyone's got a purpose, but most people don't discover it.
Yeah. Haven't done that kind of discovery process to give
Yeah,
themselves the space and time to figure that out, because yeah, we're just told to move on to the next thing, get a job, get
yeah,
a
yeah,
career, do that. You don't really ever pause long enough to
yes,
discover that. And yeah, I've experienced that myself. It's taken me a while to get to this passion where it's like, that's what
yeah.
I really want to do, and let me go try that. So I can
And COVID
appreciate.
helped, didn't it? I know COVID is now history. Most people have forgotten about COVID, but that was that pause that you're referring to.
For many, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, so that's how far it goes, and that's how the, because to me, if we solve this, if we can connect people with their inner passion and purpose, they will be happy. Their next generation will be happy. The work they do, if you look at workplace churn, for example, or the unhappiness, mental health issues at work, they happen because people are either in the wrong jobs, or they are in the right jobs but are being managed by the wrong managers. So you
Sure.
can have all kinds of scenarios. So how do you simplify it? And if you can connect people with their purpose, and once they discover it, it's like what Mark Twain said. I don't know if it was him who said it or it's attributed to him, but you're born twice: the day you were born and the day you discover your purpose. So to me, that is what drives me. So we are looking at a solution called Spark AI, which is helping you discover your inner spark. Because once you, and artificial intelligence is a great way to discover it. If you chatted with ChatGPT enough, you will discover it yourself, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But how do you actually construct it such that people can connect with their inner purpose? And once they've connected, the next thing that needs to be done is connect them with others who share the same spark. And not just others, but even products and services, because there are products and services that are designed for people of a certain type. So how do you help people discover themselves, but then discover others and other things that can help them? So that's an exciting possibility that we're working on with
Yeah.
Spark. I digressed a bit, Stephen. I don't know if
No,
I.
no, that was wonderful, and I love the idea you just hit on, and maybe we can dive just briefly into this a little bit, because I was like, I never really picked up on this thought before, but using AI to find your purpose, having, you know, chat conversations with one of the many different AI products that are out there, and in the process of that, maybe discovering what your passion is. There's so much kind of potential fear and apprehension about AI is going to take our jobs, and AI is going to become our masters, and all kinds of
Yeah.
horror stories out there about the potential future of AI. But what you just hit on was something kind of hopeful, that AI could be this wonderful tool to help individuals. Tell me a little bit more about that idea, because it just struck me as like, oh wow, that's a fascinating take on AI. So
Yeah,
tell me a
yeah.
little bit more about that, and then I definitely obviously want to transition back into the Changemakers Alliance. But that was
Yeah.
just something I don't want to let that go, because that was just such an interesting thought you threw out there.
Right. So it's funny how thoughts connect, isn't it? Because Spark AI is essentially committed to my mission, which is to enable awesome people to achieve awesome outcomes for themselves and the world, which is very important here.
Yeah.
So Spark AI actually is at its infancy. I launched it on my daughter's birthday this year,
Nice.
17th April, because it's something which I've been working with in the back of my mind for a long time. And I thought, what better gift to give my daughter than to start an initiative? It's at a very early stage right now, but the way we envision it is we have an interesting problem. If you look at the number of factors that are at play right now, you've got a generation like us who were never exposed to AI, or most people weren't, unless you
Yeah.
were in the technology field. You probably had some early view of it. But our generation is starting to we've got the experience, but we are becoming a bit crusty, if I'm being honest. The younger generation is a lot more energetic and
I'm not
doesn't have
offended by
experience.
that at all.
Yeah, yeah. So that is one problem, but we still have a few good years left in our before we
I
retire.
hope so. Absolutely.
So there is this whole generation of us who is going to be dinosaurs pretty soon if we don't catch up. The younger generation will be fine because they are native to this, as in
Right. Right.
they will just teens particularly will just sail through this. But what is great where we are is we've got the experience and we just need to make that quick transition across into, right, okay, now I understand this better. So AI can help you with that. But to me, that was also an important thing because I speak to some, I use AI all the time, not to write blogs and all. I barely write. I love writing myself, but
Yeah.
uh, I use AI to think sometimes, and it's like, right, give me a different perspective to what I already have, because what I have I know, and
Absolutely.
what you need is, and I keep telling people, look, if you don't update yourself, you'll be outdated soon. So that's an important problem to solve. Now, that's one aspect of Spark AI. So how do you enable people to learn AI? Of course, the core is how do you connect people with their passion and then connect people with other passionate people who
Right.
share
Right.
passion. But I thought that's a problem to solve, which is how do you help people transition into AI? So that's one aspect. The other one was the actual solution, which actually links back to the Changemakers Alliance. Everything is kind of interconnected.
Sure.
We said we would do an open source version. So we will bring people together. So right now you can come into Discord community and you'll see a few people there. At the moment, everyone's just waving to each other. If you're familiar with Discord, you get this little
Yeah.
emoji, whatever they're called. And that's all it is there right now. But the way it's going to pan out is we're building a community together. I love communities, and you'll see that further down in the chat. But we want to bring people together who want to learn AI, who want to experiment, who want to play with it, who want to actually do stuff. And even technology people who are sitting with old technology and now need to upskill into
Yeah.
AI. So there's a whole collection of people who can come together, learn AI, but build it as well. And that's the important bit, which is why it is going to be open source. And when they build it, the solution will only focus on this thing, which is connect people with their inner purpose and then with other humans and services. But the applications of these are particularly wide. Because if you have a solution like this, the next thing you can do is solve the mental health problem that I was talking at workplace. Because
Sure.
and we experimented. We used some Google APIs and some services that they had built to solve this problem. How do you connect people with workplaces? If you look at workplaces today, uh, it's still very prevalent. It's like it's a skill match. They say, "Oh, I need someone with these skills." Someone looks at the CV. Yes, I found the matching word. Therefore, this person may be a good fit. But they don't go beyond that.
Yeah.
Some good organizations do. But that's the next layer we are trying to get to, which is if we could use this Spark AI to then connect you with organizations that share. Every organization has a philosophy and a culture. So Spark AI should be able to do that match. That's the next level of match.
Sure.
And then you, however big your organization is, your immediate team and your manager are your organization. Rest of them don't matter. So how do you do a people culture match, people team match? And all of those things, the applications of Spark AI are many, but we are starting with connecting change makers with other change makers initially. But the applications are many because that then starts solving the problem. Because if people are matched well
Yeah.
to the local cultures and all, you get this happy place where people feel more driven to do
Yeah.
good work.
They belong.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
they're happier. And
Yeah.
yes. So I come a full circle back to
You have.
points.
Yeah. So thanks
Yeah.
for that little side trip there into Spark AI. But I do believe that kind of brings you then back to the Changemakers Alliance, and so great transition now. Tell me a bit more about that and explain what it is, help people understand, and
Yeah.
so continue on. What's the Changemakers Alliance?
It's a good segue actually because Spark AI is essentially what I was visualizing, I think back in 2017, 2018, which is, we used to call it the Connects engine at that point. And I just like geeky things. So I said KNEX. I'm not going to spell connects right. So we're going to call it the Connects engine. Just sounds cool. But that's what we are doing through the Changemakers Alliance. So all we are doing is really, um, we're using manual processes, if I'm being honest right now, and that's not my vision. It's a very decentralized and autonomous way of connecting people and uh, expediting change and enabling people really. But what we've got is, as the name says, it's as it says on the tin. It is an alliance between change makers, and at the moment, what we're really doing is focusing on. So people come into our. We tried various solutions, but WhatsApp seems to work. You are part of it now, Stephen,
I
as a
am.
change
Yeah.
maker yourself, and it's in everyone's pocket. So we've tried several solutions, but WhatsApp works. So we said, let's stick to what works for people. But what we're doing there is really working with change makers, bringing them in, but it's not for anyone and everyone. We do a good amount of vetting before someone comes in because there are lots of change making communities around. But what we see is they die pretty quickly because
Hmm.
people are disengaged or someone comes in, they can't connect, or the conversations are not relevant to them, so they disappear or they are shy, they don't feel encouraged to participate. So at the front of Changemakers Alliance is a very simple concept called the Global Changemakers Directory. And again, that's also trying to solve a simple problem, which is, as a change maker yourself, you just for these podcasts, you're probably trying to reach out to other change makers. But look at how many LinkedIn profiles you have to scan through before you say, "Oh, I think I want to invite this
Connect
person."
that person. Sure.
Uh,
Define a change maker real quick, just so
oh
in
yes,
the context of your vision for this, so that folks listening or watching can better understand that term, because it could mean a number of different things to a number of different people. So in the
yeah,
context of your story, what is a change maker?
yeah. So change maker is definitely not a change management professional as most people think it is. Change maker is the simple definition. I think Ashoka Foundation first proposed this many years back, and it's essentially someone who looks at a social issue, so to say. It sees that there is something that could be done better, but doesn't just stop at that, but takes action towards it. So bias for action is absolutely critical. But that's what a change maker is. Now, sometimes we get, and we'll come back to the Global Changemakers Directory, and people say, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm a change maker." And it's like, no, because every change maker starts their journey by first spotting that there is an issue that needs
Sure.
a new way of thinking. So it doesn't have to be someone like Yvon Chouinard, I can't pronounce his surname, but the Patagonia man. It doesn't have to be someone who's achieved that
Sure.
level of achievement. That's not
Yeah.
necessary, isn't it? He's a change maker as well.
Yeah. Well, even he started out with an idea for a clothing company that was
Yes,
different, right? So,
yes,
so even
yes,
he started out small before it became what it is. So your idea is you don't, no one starts, from the top of the change maker hill, if you will. Everybody starts with that inner doubt
yes.
and
It's
just has
germination of an
this,
idea.
I
Yeah,
see something that's wrong in the world and I want to do something to make the world a better place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be global scale either. You don't have to
Sure.
go, as in, if you ask me, Steve Jobs was a change maker in
Sure.
interesting way. But uh, you don't have to be Steve Jobs. You could be just fixing your local area. It may be that some patch of ground is not green enough, and you decide that that has an impact on for whatever reasons, and you say, "I'm
Yeah.
going to make that green." You are a change maker,
Perfect.
or you're
Perfect.
redefining the rules of the world. You're a change maker. It doesn't matter what scale you are on.
Right.
You are a change maker if you are taking action, and that bias for action is super important here. But
Perfect.
that's what we are doing. We're gathering people who are change makers together. And the reason we are doing it, and the whole vetting process and all, is simply to make sure that the right people are coming together. It's having a community where people just can't connect with each other is pointless, in my opinion. But it also addresses the problem I was describing, which is you have to go through 1,000 LinkedIn profiles before you discover one that you say, "Oh yeah, this person is a change maker," or whatever you're trying to find.
Sure.
We're trying to simplify that because I've seen, as in this is 7 years in now from the first germination of Small Outside to TCA. And I've gone through the pain where I have desperately wanted to connect with good people, but it, it drains you. So we are trying to get to a culture of shameless networking, and that's important.
I
Because,
like that.
yeah, as in,
Shameless networking.
absolutely, as in, we all connect with each other. Of course, we connect with each other for a laugh, to feel good, all those, but there's always something else that we are trying to do. It may not be we are trying to steal each other's money. Sometimes it may be, look, let's just do something together. And if you don't need to go through the pleasantries, you should be able to get straight to the point and say, look, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? Of course, with integrity, of course. But that's the culture we are trying to build within this community. But the other problem we are trying to solve is the people who are coming into the change makers who are coming into the community, they need to be showcased out as well. Because a lot of change makers I come across have a bright idea, or they spot a problem, they have an idea, and they take action. But more often than not, change making is not seen as lucrative by people. So therefore, they don't invest in it. More often than not, change makers say things which are so alien to people who don't understand it. And they don't feel heard, they feel ridiculed, they don't feel,
Sure.
they just can't get their idea off the ground. And that's a problem, that's an important problem to solve. So we've summed it up, Changemakers Alliance, into three words, which is showcase, connect, and support. So that's all we are really doing. So we bring change makers together, showcase them, and there are various services that we're building to showcase change makers, their passion, their journey, and their problems as well. But again, using open models where people learn from each other. So we've got a concept called front row. So front row is a very different. We've trialed this, and we will start implementing and rolling out. And it'll be great for you, Stephen, to come on front row one day and be
Sure.
part of it. But it's a collection of services. A podcast may happen within front row, but essentially the idea is the change maker is on the stage and the audience is all on the front row. But they are the ones who are kind of guiding, directing, being honest, because sometimes just giving that honest critique is as valuable as giving a hand of support. So
Of course.
it's that. But front row is just one example of many. Global Change Makers Directory is another one, which is a very light implementation right now. Would love to see you on the GCD profile with your GCD profile, because again, it's an effort to showcase. Steven's doing stories sustain us. How do I make the world know that that's what he's working on? But that's what we are doing. So showcase, connect, and support. Connecting is important. So we are doing that through a community. So I don't know if your listeners will be familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them, and they all focus on real world important issues, like zero hunger or no poverty or climate action. And those are a great inspiration. So everything I've done in the last 7 years has, I wouldn't say 5, because it was about 5 years back I stumbled upon UN SDGs and I said, oh, this has just given me a language that I was looking for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's baked into our community. So we've got 17 sustainable development goal focused groups. And we bring people together on that shared passion. So you can see the sparky eye concepts are
Yeah. So
being
you connect with the group that is your passion, and
Yeah.
for the listeners or watchers out there, if you're not familiar with the 17 goals that Dash is talking about, they really do cover just about every aspect of human existence on Earth. And I stumbled upon them in the class with you at Oxford about 2 years ago. That's where I first learned of them, and they were really the inspiration for the show. That's why, when I talk about Stories Sustain Us, we're going to be talking about everything under the umbrella of sustainability. It's really inspired by those 17 goals. So we're going to be talking about all those things on this show. So I appreciate how you're connecting that into your Changemakers Alliance and giving people those avenues, because it really, whatever your passion is for, taking action to make the world a better place, one of those 17 goals you'll find a fit, I think,
Yes.
in my interpretation of it.
Yeah, and then you're more likely to find a fit with more than one, and that's the
Of
nature of
course.
these goals.
Yeah,
They're all
absolutely.
interconnected. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would encourage your listeners, and it's slowly becoming a bit more known. As in back in 2015, when I first stumbled upon it, it was interesting because I saw something and I said, I can relate to this. I still remember creating a Facebook post which has the SDG logo on the side and
Yeah.
a visual behind it. The artist in me was coming out, I think. But what I'm really trying to get to is the alignment, which is the language that it provides is so beautiful. So if your listeners think there may be a signaling of change making that is starting to take birth in them, or they've already discovered that they are, I would
Yeah.
strongly encourage them to go to just put those words, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and you suddenly discover this language, which is really good. But we're using that actively in terms of gathering people. So what is important is relevance of networking and relevance of conversation. And that's what the language enables us. So with a group, it's birds of a feather fly together. And that's what we are essentially doing through those groups. But that's just the starting point. And I don't know how much time, Stephen, we've got on this session to talk. I can talk till the cows come home, frankly, on TCA.
Yeah. Well, we are nearing a good transition point here to give you the floor to kind of do a call to action. What, for folks who've listened to us, up into this point and are inspired by what you're sharing and have that spark of a change maker in them that you've described. What do you want them to do? What action do you want them to take? What would you call on people who've been listening to this to do after we hit done today and they're now ready to go do something? What do you want them to do?
The word there is action. Just take action. That's it. But
Yeah.
it's like, of course, I can talk a bit about how we can support that action in a moment. But really, I would strongly encourage if you are stuck in a, and this again connects back to finding your purpose and finding happiness in whatever work you do in your 80,000 hours, so to say. If something's germinating, don't let it die. Just go and take the action. Speak to people. There are some great people around, as in come into the Changemakers Alliance community and meet some people, because that seedling that's starting to germinate really needs watering. It needs that fertilizer. It needs that food.
Yeah.
So I would say get into conversations. I was there in 2011. I didn't even recognize the word changemaker then. So I would say the real call to action is for your listeners to actually go on that discovery. And if you're asking me what's the call to action from things that we do and how we can support, really
Yeah.
just
How
come
can
on
somebody
and
get involved with you or, try to join the Changemakers Alliance or see more or learn more about what you're doing? What can they do?
oh yeah, no, absolutely, it's very easy to remember. So if your listeners want to join the community, just simply reach out. Go to our website, pavethechange.org. So to me, that kind of describes what we are trying to do. We are all trying to pave the change for a better future. And so, yeah, go to pavethechange.org/join, or just go to the homepage and there will be a join button. At the moment, it's all on WhatsApp. So when you hit a join button, you'll come into the WhatsApp community. And of course, you will go through general vetting checks, things that I mentioned. But beyond that, we are there to help you and support you in your journeys. So that's, to me, the important message is the other way around. It's not, uh, we would love to have you, but we want you to act on what you have discovered. So that's really the call to action, I would say. The other one, maybe, Stephen, just to kind of clarify to your listeners as well. For what we are focused was change making comes in so many shapes, sizes, and forms. So it's important I clarify where we are coming at it from. So
Yeah.
our focus. Maybe if we have to distill it down to mission statements and vision statements, and then to me these are not sentences; they have to live, and that's what we are living right now.
Yeah.
But our vision is so we are focusing not just on the feel good factors of change making. Oh, yeah, I did this and I feel good. We are working on redefining how we work and how we are redefining economic activities. So it's not just woolly, feel good, fuzzy aspects of change making. This is hardcore. How do you actually survive and take your kids on a holiday, expensive holidays, and go to good restaurants and do all those things, buy good cars, all those good things that you want to do, which is where sustainability sucks comes back in. So we are starting to now
Yeah. Come full
intertwine the
circle.
threads.
Yes.
But it's because sustainability sucks. If you look at people who are focusing, they are doing it because they don't care about money. But they draw the short straw. And what I really want to encourage your listeners to just change their perspective on this, because you're not drawing a short straw if you do it properly. And that's our focus. So our vision for the world is, and it won't happen in my lifetime, I know that, but we can start somewhere, is every business a force for good. So that's our vision for the world.
Yeah.
And the way and there's a reason, as in we learned it, it was very well articulated in our course, if you recall.
I do.
Businesses are both the creators of unsustainability, but they actually hold the power to make the world more sustainable. So to me, that's an important focus area. And we are specifically looking at impact entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism. So those two aspects again are important, because if we have good impact entrepreneurship, it creates a top-down effect within organizations and the consumer chain, because we are humans, we'll keep consuming, but if people at the top start making the right decisions,
Yes.
you have more sustainable products, services, action, everything. But the other side is equally true, which is conscious consumerism, because that's a bottom up push, if you like. When consumers become conscious about their consuming habits, they create an upward pressure on the businesses to do the right things. And this all kind of ties back to every business a force for good. So I just wanted to clarify that, as in
Yes.
we are into change making, but we've got a very niche, narrow focus, which is don't please do it without looking after your own self. Make sure your activities create the economic returns for you, but also help the world. So it's a very different take
Yeah,
on making.
that's a giant vision, changing capitalism to be more purpose driven and more for good as opposed to just for the bottom line, but tying those things in together
Yes.
because they can go hand in hand. They can exist together. You don't have to be a
No.
force for good and end up scraping around for your own meals and your own ability to survive because you've sacrificed everything for the greater good. There is a balance there if we change our economic systems and our business models to where
Absolutely.
good works can produce income for you, but good end results for your community and ultimately the globe that we all share. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love the drive that your vision is of every business a force for good. That's really something that I can get behind, and I hope the listeners can get behind that as well too.
Yeah, and yeah, as in my thought process, I guess, is I was telling the change makers in our studio where we actually support change makers with hands-on support with their ventures, and I was telling them. So we were kind of trying to make sense, and we said, how do we reward people who are participating in this journey? Because essentially, we are building a cooperative, so it's a democratically controlled. So TCA is not my business; it is something that I conceived, but it is democrat. It's a cooperative model, if you're familiar with that, and it's a co-owned and democratically controlled enterprise. That's what we are building. But the question was, how do we reward people who are participating even in the building of TCA?
Yeah,
And my view is they have to be paid at the 90th percentile. That's what we should be working to. Because why should we ask change makers to skimp when they should be enjoying life as well? So yeah, I do want to encourage change makers to shift that mindset on that, to not give up on their creature comforts, but do the creature comforts and make the change. And just one small correction, if I may, is
sure.
we are not changing capitalism. We are just transforming it,
I like
because
better choice of words. Yeah,
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 yeah. And we just want, and I think you touched on the word bottom line, and we are focusing on triple bottom line ventures and businesses versus single bottom line, because nobody
absolutely.
wins.
Yeah.
But
Triple
these are
bottom
small
line.
things.
So people, planet, profit is the triple bottom line model where you're looking at all aspects, not just the profit aspect, but the people and the
Yeah,
planet all coming together is
yeah,
the triple bottom line model that you're looking at.
and more importantly, people and planet coming before profit, which is very deliberate there. But we don't like the word profit, so we use prosperity. So we call it people, planet,
Nice.
prosperity.
Perfect.
But those are the models, and those are the kind of ideas with which we are working, and we're doing it with human and technology aspects coming together. So there's a lot of tech that is happening behind the scenes as well, but that's probably going to be too detailed for your audience, so we'll
Sure.
save it for another day.
Another time.
But if you've got any questions, Stephen, more than happy to field at this
Well,
stage.
I want to end each show with 3 questions. So a lot of times these topics are heavy topics. They, talking about, climate change and mental health issues and other things can be kind of heavy. And this particular conversation, I think you've infused with a lot of inspiration and energy. But I want to end by asking you 3 questions about hope. Um, so hope is, our capability to envision a better future and our own ability to help create that. So it's something that we have some agency in making a better future. So 3 quick questions, real quick
Go
answers.
for
Don't
it. Yeah.
just your first reaction to these 3 quick questions. First question is, what is your vision for a better future? Your personal, professional, or global, whatever comes to mind. What's your vision for a better future?
Every business a force for good.
Why is that? I think we know the answer because we just talked about that, but why is that your vision?
Uh, like I explained earlier, to me, if everyone's doing the right things and you start with the business, it has impact on the people who work there. It has impact on the actions the business takes, the environmental footprint, and it all kind of ties back together, which is why it's so pivotal to me. I don't know if I'm answering your question right,
No,
but to me,
you are perfect.
yeah, to me is the nub of it. If we can crack that somehow, everything kind of starts falling in place. In my little world, by the way, there are so many ways to create change.
So the last question. Now, imagine your future vision has come to be.
Yeah,
How do you feel right now?
uh, just as happy as I'm today because I'm enjoying what I'm doing today, and
Love
I'll be
that.
happy when I achieve that as well. So it's no difference, frankly. If I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, uh, I've been doing this. I put something like 80 hours a week towards this. More recently, I'm also providing consultancy in my technology field. But even in spite of that, I'm still putting 40 hours a week. So that's the standard day, if you like. So you can imagine I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm not going to stop on that. It's interesting, though. Hopefully, I've answered your question. But your question, the three questions were funny ones. And maybe given if your audience is still listening to this at this point and they've come to the three questions, I've got my three questions. I wouldn't put you on spot, Stephen, because you're
Sure.
not on my podcast, I'm on yours. But what we do is, especially in front row, I call it the genie wishes. So if a genie came out of the lamp for
Yeah,
a change maker, what would be their three wishes? And I meticulously write it down when people say, "Oh, this is what I want to do." And to me, these are the problems to solve because
absolutely.
there are patterns that start emerging there. And you say, right, okay, they need funding. So we are working on something called Impact Funding Bridge, which will connect where the money is, which requires good governance, and where the people are who want the money to get those ideas off the ground. So that came out of those genie wishes. So I would encourage your audience to, if they've got even this little seedling of change making growing in them, or they are advanced change makers, just to think of those three genie wishes when they reach out to me, and it will help me immensely because their genie wishes are more likely to be wishes somebody else has. And at some point, Stephen, I would like to know your three genie wishes. So it'll be interesting to hear what I can guess what some of them may be, but would be good to have an offline chat on that and see how I can
Uh,
support you.
I look forward to doing that with you, Dash. And with that, well, I'll thank you for your time. Thank you so much for being a change maker yourself and sharing your passion and vision with me and the audience. And we'll put in the show notes connections to pavethechange.org. So folks who are listening and want to get in touch with you, please go to the show notes. But with that, Dash, I will say thank you. And I'm immensely grateful for your time. So we will end here. So everybody take care and thank you, Dash.
Yeah, and thanks, Stephen, for this. You're doing some amazing work. I know you're at the start of the journey, but I want to be there and support you through the journey as well because you're doing something which is an extension of sustainability sucks, essentially. So to me, it's in my interest to support you in succeeding on this. So really, thanks for this little opportunity to even share the words about what we are trying to do through the Changemakers Alliance. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dash.
Right. Cheers.
Well, all right. We've reached the end of episode number 2 of Stories Sustain Us. I want to thank Dash Desai for joining me today, and I'm really grateful he highlighted the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. As I mentioned, this podcast stems from my time taking a University of Oxford course about the future of sustainable business, which is also where I happened to meet Dash and I first learned about the SDGs. I was inspired to create this show after learning about the SDGs and by noted climate scientist Katharine Hayhoe, who states that the most important thing we can do to fight climate change is to talk about it. So I created this show where we share stories about sustainability. Now, regarding the current state of the SDGs, if you're unaware, they were established in 2015 to address global challenges by 2030. And unfortunately, all 17 SDGs are off track, with some targets even regressing. That's clearly a problem. To help address this problem, Dash emphasized the need to transition our economic models from a shareholder first to a triple bottom line approach, prioritizing people and planet over profits. While this is crucial, it is also very challenging. Our current economic systems prioritize profit, neglecting the full social and environmental costs known as externalities. These include, for example, pollution, plastic waste, chemical usage, and social inequalities, which businesses often pass the cost of onto us, the consumers. An academic researcher, professor, and author, Chris Marquis, in his new book, The Profiteers, argues that businesses privatize profits while socializing costs, revealing flaws in the belief that companies can maximize profits and benefit society simultaneously. And he points out how corporations are actually gaslighting us into believing this fallacy. He suggests systemic solutions are needed to fix these systemic problems, including regenerative business models that restore natural resources and promote equity. I, for one, am in full agreement with his argument, and I plan to have guests on in the future who share their powerful stories, better connecting us to the meaning and significance of economic terms like externality and regenerative business. Look, it is well past time to transform our economic models. There is a need to change our personal behavior and demand action from businesses and political leaders, embracing conscious consumerism and impact purpose-driven entrepreneurship and economic systems, just as Dash advocates. What also resonates with me are Dash's ideas about how Spark AI will be able to help people find their passion and businesses where they might best utilize their passion in a career. I have found my passion, and I believe I'm already in the right career. However, because of this conversation with Dash, I have already started using AI to identify companies adopting regenerative practices and to find new ways that I can become a more conscious consumer. I will continue to vote with my money for sustainable businesses, and I will continue to vote for politicians who I believe best demonstrate the necessary courage it will take to change outdated policies into a more sustainable direction. I encourage you to vote for the businesses and elected officials that most closely align with your values. My hope is that organized communities and citizens can utilize their power to help expedite the change to a new, more sustainable and equitable future. My hope in the future also resides in young people, like the next guest on Stories Sustain Us. Join me next week for an inspiring conversation with a young UK-based activist. Her energy and achievements will undoubtedly motivate you to take action. So check out Stories Sustain Us on July 2nd, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, which I hope is this one. So please hit those like, subscribe, and follow buttons. You can also get the episode at storysustainus.com. Until next time, I'm Steven Schauer. Please take care of yourself and each other. Take care.